March 2, 2004. Wichita, Kansas. A plain white envelope sat in a public library drop box. Inside, a floppy disk. Police loaded it. What they found made their blood run cold. "This is BTK," it read. "Can I trust you not to trace this?" For 30 years, he was silent. No one knew he was still alive. Behind the mask was Dennis Rader, a church president, a father, a city worker. But inside, he was still BTK. Bind, torture, kill. He had fooled everyone. And now, he wanted attention again. What came next was the end of his twisted game. This is a true story. Every word is real. Subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story, and stay to the end, because this gets darker. January 15, 1974, 8:15 a.m., Wichita, Kansas, USA. It was cold. Quiet. Just like any other morning in the sleepy neighborhood of Edgemore. Snow clung to tree branches. Children were getting ready for school. Dogs barked in distant backyards. The world felt peaceful. But inside one house, the Oteros weren't moving. Neighbors would later say it felt too quiet. Moments later, a teenager opened the front door of 803 North Edgemere Street. His books dropped. He screamed. He ran. Inside, his parents were tied up. His 9-year-old brother, Joey, was face down. His 11-year-old sister, Josie, hung from a pipe in the basement. All four were dead. Why them? Why this house? Why that day? The questions haunted Wichita for decades. His name was Dennis Rader. But the world didn't know it yet. In public, Dennis was a quiet man. He worked at ADT Security. He fixed alarms. He talked about safety. He had a wife, 2 kids. He led Sunday service at church. But Dennis had a secret. He didn't want to just kill. He wanted to be known. He called himself BTK. It stood for bind, torture, kill. The Otero family, 1974. BTK didn't just break in. He had watched. Waited. He knew the family's schedule. He picked the day the older kids were at school. He wore gloves. Carried cords. Taped their mouths. He told them he was just there to rob them. Then, he changed. He tied them up, in separate rooms. He took his time. He strangled them. One by one. He kept trophies. Hair. Clothes. Things only he would know. He left the scene looking like a nightmare. But he wasn't done. At first, police had no clue. They thought it was a burglary gone wrong. No fingerprints. No forced entry. No connection between killer and victim. Wichita locked its stores. People stopped going out after dark. Who could do this? And why? No one guessed it was the quiet man who installed their alarms. In 1978, a typed letter arrived at KTV, a local station. It began. "Those 3 guys you have in custody are just talking to get publicity. They know nothing. I did it. Not they." The letter detailed the Otero murders. Things only the killer would know. He signed it. "Yours truly, guiltily, BTK." He demanded attention. He wanted a name. He gave himself one. And the media gave it to him. Her name was Catherine Bright. She was 21. A college student. She had dreams. Dennis broke into her home. He waited. When she came in with her brother Kevin, things didn't go as planned. Kevin fought back, was shot twice, but survived. Catherine wasn't so lucky. BTK tied her up. Stabbed her. Watched her die slowly. This time, he almost got caught. But somehow, he vanished. Years passed. People began to forget. BTK didn't. He kept everything. Clippings, souvenirs, rope, photos. He fantasized, wrote stories. He drew disturbing sketches of women bound and tortured. He mailed them to police, teasing them, mocking them. But then, he vanished again. From 1979 to 1985, no known murders. Until one cold day, when he struck again. Marine Hedge, 1985. BTK lived just a few doors down from her. Marine Hedge was 53. She liked gardening. She lived alone. On April 27, 1985, she disappeared. Her body was later found dumped in a ditch. Strangled. Undressed. Ropes left behind. BTK had taken her, staged her body, and returned home to his family. No one suspected a thing. That's the part that haunts people the most. BTK led a prayer the next day. Smiling. Calm. Holy. He killed. Then praised God. The monster was hiding in plain sight. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. Wichita, Kansas, 1985. The sun rose on another quiet morning in Wichita. Parents took their kids to school. Dogs barked. Birds chirped. Life moved on. No one knew he had just struck again. On April 27, 1985, Denise Rader broke into Marine Hedge's home. She was a 53-year-old neighbor. Friendly. Quiet. Trusted. He waited until night. Then he hid in her house. She came home. And the horror began. He strangled her with his bare hands. Then he did something no one expected. He took her body with him. He posed her in the church where he worked. He photographed her. Then dumped her by the side of the road. No one knew who did it. No one even suspected a church leader could be the killer. He walked among them every day. By 1991, Dennis had killed 10 people. His last known victim was Dolores Davis. She was found near a bridge. Strangled. Dumped. Just like the others. Then, nothing. No more murders. No more letters. BTK went silent for over a decade. The city thought he had moved or died. People forgot. But Dennis didn't. He watched every news story. He clipped articles. He fantasized. He planned. And in 2004, something changed. A local newspaper published a story. What happened to the BTK killer? That was all it took. Dennis was offended. They were forgetting him. He couldn't allow that. On March 17, 2004, Wichita received a package. Inside was a photocopy of Vicki Wegerle's driver's license. She had been murdered in 1986. The killer had taken her ID, but no one ever knew. Until now. The package was signed, BTK. The city froze. He was back. Over the next few months, more letters arrived. He wrote long messages to the police. He called himself a monster. He taunted them. Dared them. Played mind games. He even asked, "Can I communicate with you via floppy disk?" The police lied. They said, "Yes. It's safe." That was his final mistake. Dennis sent a purple 1.44 megabytes floppy disk to a local news station. It had one hidden file. Police checked the disk metadata. It said, "Last edited by Dennis," and under the file properties, Christ Lutheran Church. They went to the church website. There, they found the president's name. Dennis Rader. Detectives quietly followed him. They took a DNA sample from his daughter's medical records. It matched the DNA found under Vicki Wegerle's fingernails. It was over. On February 25, 2005, police surrounded Dennis in his car. "Mr. Rader?" He nodded. "You're under arrest for murder." He didn't speak. But inside the police station, he began to talk. "This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home." February 2005. The room was cold. Gray walls. A ticking clock. Silence. Detective Landwehr sat across from Dennis Rader. A family man. A church president. A scout leader. Now accused of 10 brutal murders. Dennis didn't deny it. Instead, he talked. For hours. His voice was calm. He spoke like he was reading a grocery list. "I put on my hit kit. Waited inside the house. Then struck when they were alone." He admitted everything. He described tying knots, taking trophies, acting out fantasies. He talked about each murder in shocking detail, as if he were proud. He even corrected the police. "No, I didn't use a cord. It was pantyhose. It wasn't just a confession. It was a performance." June 27, 2005, Sedgwick County Courthouse. Dennis stood before the judge. The room was packed. Survivors, reporters, families of the victims. He showed no emotion. Then the judge asked, "Mr. Rader, how do you plead?" Dennis replied, "Guilty. I committed the murders as part of what I call my fantasy world." Gasps filled the room. He described each victim, methodically. He called them projects. He blamed his fantasies. He compared himself to a hunter. He said the term BTK came from his desire to bind, torture, kill, in that exact order. The crowd stared in horror. Many cried. Even the judge paused. Behind every crime, there was a double life. Dennis Rader had a wife named Paula, a son and a daughter, a job as a city compliance officer. He mowed his lawn, attended church, led Boy Scouts. But on nights alone, he wore masks, dresses, robes. He took photos of himself pretending to be his victims. Bound, gagged, hanging from pipes. He buried these pictures in secret boxes around his house. Investigators found them all. The truth hit his family like a storm. His daughter cried on live television. "He was the best dad. I had no idea. How could a father do this? How could a man smile at church on Sunday and kill a mother on Monday?" On August 18, 2005, Dennis Rader faced justice. He was sentenced to 10 life terms, one for each murder. The judge called his acts unspeakable, cold, calculated, evil. Rader simply nodded. He showed no regret. He was sent to El Dorado Correctional Facility, where he lives to this day. No chance of parole. No more letters. Just silence. But the scars he left behind? They never faded. This is not fiction. Every detail is part of a real case that you can verify yourself. The people of Wichita still remember. The Otero family's home is gone, bulldozed. Too painful to stand. Church members can't forget the quiet man in the front pew. And his daughter? She wrote a book. She still struggles with the truth. He was two people. My father. And BTK. Even behind bars, Dennis Rader remains a mystery. Not a monster with fangs, but a man who hid evil behind a smile. Have you heard this story before? What do you think truly happened in Dennis Rader's mind? Could anyone have stopped him sooner? If you're drawn to real stories that stay with you, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because every week, We reveal the darkest truths hidden in plain sight. Wichita, Kansas. Post 2005. Even after Dennis Rader's arrest, the town couldn't sleep. People replayed moments in their minds. He used to check my backyard for code violations. He once smiled and helped me fix a mailbox. I led my kids near that man. They weren't haunted by just the crimes. They were haunted by how close he had been. Dennis Rader wasn't the monster under the bed. He was the one eating dinner at the next table. Paula Rader, Dennis's wife of 34 years, filed for an emergency divorce just weeks after his arrest. She never visited him in prison. Never spoke to him again. Not once. Court records showed that Dennis had kept meticulous journals of his crimes, stored right under their family home. But Paula said she never saw it. Not the masks. Not the photos. Not the plans. She had no idea she was sleeping beside a killer. Imagine that. Imagine washing dinner plates while your husband plans how to tie up a stranger in a basement. Carrie Rawson, Dennis's daughter, was 26 when he was arrested. A married teacher. Just started her life. And then, everything broke. She got a knock at the door from the FBI. "Your father is the BTK killer." She collapsed. She thought they had the wrong man. But DNA proved it. His words proved it. The pictures proved it. She had to accept it. She wrote later, "I loved my dad. And I hate what he did. I still live in that war zone every day." In 2019, she released a book, A Serial Killer's Daughter. Her story is the other side of the horror. Inside a Wichita police vault lies the BTK archive. Over 1,300 pieces of evidence. Dozens of letters. Photographs. Sketches of fantasy torture scenes. Ropes. Gags. Barbie dolls hung by wires. They show not just what he did, but how much he planned. He called them projects and coded logs. He watched homes for weeks. Sometimes, he'd break in and wait hours. Sometimes, he'd leave if things weren't right, only to come back a year later. This wasn't random. It was obsession. This is a real story. Every fact you hear is public. You can check it yourself. If real-life mysteries leave you breathless, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story. Because the next truth we uncover might hit even closer to home. After BTK's arrest, the world couldn't look away. Books, documentaries, movies, even jokes. But some took it too far. In 2007, a man in New York sent BTK-style letters to the media. He was arrested. Another left chilling messages on church doors, pretending to be Dennis. The killer had become a twisted icon. Even Rader noticed. From prison, he wrote letters to journalists, wanting to explain himself. He called himself a misunderstood man with urges. He even tried to copyright his name. But the state stopped him. Still, the hunger for attention never died. In 2022, a chilling development. Investigators announced that BTK might be connected to even more cold cases, missing women from the 70s and 80s. Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas. Cases where women vanished, with no trace. And the method? Similar bindings. Similar knots. Even sketches found in Rader's old storage unit matched one of the crime scenes. His daughter, Carrie, helped investigators by handing over journals and drawings. She said, "If my dad hurt more people, I want their families to know. I want justice." The story wasn't over. It might never be. El Dorado Correctional Facility, Kansas. 2010s. Dennis Rader sits alone in a maximum security cell. He's allowed 1 hour outside, in a cage. He spends his time writing letters, reading the Bible, drawing torture fantasies. and watching birds through a slit window. He signed letters as BTK again, until the prison banned it. When reporters ask if he feels guilt, he says, "I compartmentalize. Dennis is one man. BTK is another." He describes his crimes in cold, robotic detail. But he cries when talking about losing his dog. What does that tell you? Let's remember the victims again. Joseph, Julie, Joseph Jr., and Josephine Otero, a whole family, gone. Catherine Bright, stabbed beside her brother. Shirley Vian, mother of 3, killed while her kids sat tied up in the next room. Nancy Fox, killed in her own bed. BTK called the police to report it. Maureen Hedge, a neighbor. He broke into her house on church night. Vicky Wegerle, strangled. Her husband found her body. Dolores Davis, abducted and hidden under a bridge. Every name. Every face. Real people. Not chapters in a horror book. Their families still carry the silence. In 2023, investigators reopened storage boxes found in Rader's possession. Inside, a sketch titled Bad Wash Day. A woman hanging by her ankles. Another called Mommy Caught and Put in Dungeon. Lists of names. Some unsolved. Some never public. Rader kept these for decades. Each one labeled with potential hit dates. Some were marked aborted, he didn't go through with them. Others matched missing persons cases. He had more plans. We may never know how many. Neighbors. Churchgoers. His own family. Nobody knew. So now we ask. What would you have seen? Could you spot a monster in khakis and glasses? Would you notice a man slipping into his shed every night, drawing knots and gauges? Or would you smile, say hello, and walk on? That's what makes the BTK case so terrifying. It wasn't a monster in the woods. It was the friendly man next door. This is not fiction. Every detail is part of a real case that you can verify yourself. The Rader family home still exists. People drive by it. Some take pictures. But most stay quiet. Some leave flowers. The basement is empty. The shed in the backyard is locked. But the walls once hid masks, outfits, handcuffs. One neighbor said, "That house has a weight. Even with no one in it. It's not haunted by ghosts. It's haunted by the truth." Even behind bars, Dennis Rader writes. He sends letters to professors, to journalists, to true crime fans. He signs them, sincerely, Dennis Rader aka BTK. He writes about his projects. Draws diagrams of binds, knots, cages. Describes how he stalked his victims like prey. One criminologist said. When he writes, he relives it. You can feel it in every word. And yes, he even wrote letters to his daughter. Carrie Rawson never guessed. She grew up with a dad who packed her school lunch, taught her how to fish, took her to church every Sunday. Then, the FBI knocked. Your father is the BTK killer. Carrie fainted. Years later, she wrote. He was the monster I feared under my bed. And the man who tucked me in. She stopped talking to him. But the nightmares stayed. She now helps families of violent crime victims, just like hers. Today, Rader sits alone in a concrete cell. He will die in prison. He won't be executed. He won't be forgiven. But he will be remembered, for all the wrong reasons. And still, people write him. Some ask him why. Some ask for autographs. He doesn't answer the first. But he signs the second. Here's the truth. Dennis Rader fooled his church, his job, his wife, and his own children. He lived 2 lives. By day, a husband, a dad, a scout leader. By night, a watcher, a planner, a killer. So we ask you, Have you ever looked at someone and wondered what they're hiding? What secrets sleep behind the walls of your neighbor's house? And how many monsters still smile at us through windows and pews? The Rader home. Still standing. Still quiet. But once, it held a man who called himself BTK. Bind. Torture. Kill. And behind that name was a father who smiled as he buried victims in ditches and drains, and who might have never been caught if not for his need to be seen. Have you heard this story before? What do you think truly happened behind the shed? If you're drawn to real stories that stay with you, subscribe now to @Unbelievable True Story, because every week, we reveal the darkest truths hidden in plain sight. Watch the next video on your screen, or dive into our full playlist of real mysteries and crimes. The next story might be even more shocking.